And here we are back again for another day of Trey's Chow Down Live. And in the studio, I have Emily.
Good morning.
Hello, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
With the Texas Restaurant Association.
Yes.
This is going to be an exciting show.
Yes, it is.
Because we're going to barrel into a lot of stuff, a lot of information. But first, I want to talk about something that's very important to us. And everybody, I hope everybody knows what the day is. And Emily, you and I talked about this earlier. 911. This is a very important day. I remember where I was on this day. I was in a restaurant parking lot when it happened. I heard on the radio. I was going to open up one of our restaurants in Capel, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow. And
I ran inside to get the flat screens on so I could see what was going on. Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe. So 911, they have got a new website for kids. It's called 911lesson.org. Have you been to it yet? I have, and I think it's so important our kids go.
Yeah. It is neat because what they're saying now is that even the people who join the military right now
Absolutely.
weren't even alive when 911. So the 911lesson.org, I was excited to read about that, and I thought that's something that really needs to be done. If you have kids, 911lesson.org, save it, post it, go to it. I would suggest everybody go to it and post it on social media. I think it's a great idea. Don't ever want to forget about that. And they added 27 new names to the 911 wall today. The people that have died because of the effects of cancer or whatever, because of the effects of going in the towers or rescuing people.
I was watching them reading names before I came, and 19 years later, it's just as emotional.
It is, for me, yeah.
It's very emotional.
I just didn't think it was real, as you did too, is what you told me.
I thought it was a little tiny plane that got lost. And I believed that for a day, even though I could see the pictures. I could see what happened.
I thought it was a movie. At first, I thought it was a movie. Something on the screen, somebody had messed with the.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem real.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just no, and I was up in that area. I was like, this can't happen.
Crazy. Okay, I want to talk about this. I want to get 911 out of the way, even though it's sad. I want to talk about this because this is something that's very important to me and very dear to our hearts. Last month was our biggest month ever in social media for us in decades since we've been going. We reached a record 5.8 million people and engaged with almost 900,000 people, which is just phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Absolutely.
They told me it wouldn't work.
So you believed?
Oh yeah, I believed. All right, that's why I'm still doing it. But that's the way you do it. If you believe everything you hear,
absolutely, and be positive.
That's right. You gotta be positive. But I'm thankful for all the restaurants and chefs and service people who do what they do. Because if you don't do what you do, I can't do what I do, and I enjoy supporting local. That's another thing I want to talk about real quick. I made a post about supporting local. I take everything supporting local. Supporting local means you support local in your area because there may be a person that owns a franchise that's not from this area, but they've got their hard-earned money in that building, in that franchise,
that's exactly
and
right.
Still local.
We forget that franchisees are local, right? And I think that's key. And also, by the way, they also have the additional franchisee fee.
Right.
So they even have another burden typically in a crisis like this.
Right. And I don't understand. It's I guess people that aren't in the restaurant business, it's hard for them to understand that franchise. Yep. They think, oh, it's a big
It's a McDonald's, so they're fine. No, not so much.
No, not at all. All right, I want real quick before we get into Emma, we got some openings here. We've got the new Chiba Hut in Deep Ellum. Have you heard of that yet?
I haven't yet, but it sounds interesting.
You know what it is?
Nope.
It's a stoner-based concept restaurant.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I thought you would have said Austin.
Yeah, it looks really neat. I mean, that's not their first one, but it's it's opened up in Deep Ellum next week. Fletcher's Corny Dogs, I told y'all last week and I went and tried them.
That's exciting.
Isn't that cool? Is in all the Golden Chicks. And I have had some reverse action and comments about it. And what people have to understand is that this is something new for Fletcher's and for Golden Chick.
Right.
And these things are being hand dipped. And there's going to be the few kinks they have to work out of that deal,
Absolutely.
like anything else. So
show grace right now.
Just
show grace.
And especially like I went into one Golden Chick. There was two people. There was two people, one person at one counter, one person at drive-thru, one person in the kitchen. 3 people around the whole restaurant, and the drive-thru was wrapped.
And you know why? Because we can't find help.
Right. Can't find help.
Can't find help.
Just got to show a little grace.
Especially to the frontline worker, right? I mean, they're doing their very best.
I can't imagine what they're going through right now. I tell you.
I worry a lot about that. Yeah, because they get the brunt of all of it. All the policies, all the health regulations that people don't like, they're right on the front line. And sometimes they're 18 years old, 16 years old.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
They're there because they want to be there because they can walk out any time.
That's exactly right.
Restaurants are, what was it? I saw the figure, and I've had so many figures the last 3 or 4 months, but are the first time employer restaurant is like,
it's like 1 in 4.
Yeah.
1 in 4, 1 in 3. It's right in that range of pretty much all of us have started in a restaurant at some point.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Powerful. Yeah.
In Fort Worth, Taco Paseo opened up this week in the new Crockett Row Food Hall. It's not new, but they reopened. They were closed for a long time. They reopened. Taco Paseo, go check it out. It's in the food hall. In Deep Ellum, we also, they opened back up again last night, Deep Ellum Distillery.
Yo, excellent.
Yeah, they opened up last night. I was excited. I couldn't get over
visit.
there. Yeah. I couldn't get over there. I wanted to get
tonight.
I'm going to go tonight. Yeah, I'll definitely go tonight. I don't do anything on show nights except go eat.
That's right. Every night's a good eat night, right?
That's right. Also, too, Rufus Barbecue, Rufus Bar and Grill in Fort Worth in the Elverd City View. They got their new patio in, so you can go out there.
Nice. It's a beautiful weekend.
40 people on the patio.
Excellent.
Excited about that. And Brick and Bones in Deep Ellum, my favorite. Have you ever had? You've probably never had there.
No.
They have a guy that came from Mexico City, and he has a chicken. It's called Mexican fried chicken, and it is got 15 different spices on it.
Wow.
And they created they put in a walk-up window so they could sell even because they were a bar.
That's right. Yeah, they became kind of carry out. Yep.
They reopened back up, put that window, but I featured them on an ABC special, and I've also featured them on Fox.
Nice.
Their chicken is the best fried chicken I think I've ever had in my life. It's just
we'll go try it.
It's amazing.
So they were closed just during the pandemic, the height of it?
Yeah, but then they put the window in. That's a lot of people did. They were trying to.
Oh my gosh, that was our saving grace, right? Everyone became drive-through.
Yeah, that's
drive-through and pickup.
And then one last thing I thought was really neat. Las Vegas has opened up a new adult-only casino with a new adult-only steakhouse called Lux, and by a celebrity chef. And I'm curious to see how that's going to work
in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, yeah, and during the pandemic.
Yeah, you see a lot of openings right now, though, which gives you hope. It does give you hope. Green shoots.
Why Las Vegas is dead right now, comparatively speaking.
It's dead. If you want to go to Las Vegas, go now.
Yeah.
Because the deals are off the charts.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's a great time to go.
Okay, Emily. So let's get into you a little bit.
Yeah.
So you are from, where were you? You told me Boston.
Yeah, so raised in Connecticut.
Raised in Connecticut.
Dad was on a submarine base in Connecticut, and then sort of a transplant to Texas now, about 10 years.
Right. And you grew up, how long did you grow up in Boston, or did you move around a little bit?
No, we were in Japan, moved twice in Connecticut, and then I was really lucky. My dad did unaccompanied tours just to keep my brother and I settled. Wow. But then my husband and I married a Coast Guard officer, because I guess most military dependents kind of go down that route.
Yeah. Well, it's your environment, right? It's the environment you live in.
And you are insular, right? Everyone's like you, and people get you if you're in the military, right? Your dad's not there, your mom's not there. There's just a lot of grit growing up in that family, and so you're attracted to that. And so we've moved 13 times. I've lived in Colorado, Chicago, Pennsylvania, Key West. I'm one of those people that just pick up, and it's a military trait, right? You just put your stuff in a box and you go to the next place and you settle down and you don't complain about it, and life goes on.
Like we talked about a while ago when I told you I lived in California, Florida, Kansas, all restaurant related. So
it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. And what you did moving around, the different concepts you see in different food flavor profiles, everything you see in different parts of the country is phenomenal.
And then, my last role was global. So I was in and out of so many countries on a weekly basis. And I'll tell you the one thing, no language. I speak one language, English. Yeah. I could drop into any country and have a dinner conversation, and it was always because food is what brought us together.
Right.
Always food.
That's what I say.
Yep.
Food is exploration of the palate. Try something new, you just might like it, and that's the whole thing.
Absolutely.
People try new foods. They get together in groups, and it creates conversation over food every time.
And community. And the more relaxed you are, the more you're willing to talk. And we don't talk enough right now. Yeah. Everyone just sort of rolls up against their side, and so get around a table. That's why we need dining rooms back open fully.
That's why I liked Bourdain's show so much.
Absolutely. Oh, he did an amazing job just traveling the world, and I wasn't maybe as a risk taker. There were times I saw something, I thought, oh God, how am I going to get through this? But it was a respect thing for me. It was it was an honor for them to provide something local for me to try. So I always did. I mean, always, as you said, liked it, but I just wanted to have that experience and to show them that I cared enough to know about them. That was important.
So you lived. So I want to go back down one minute because I did not notice till we talked about it. You were in the New York area when the planes hit the towers, correct?
Yeah. So I lived in Pennsylvania. My husband and I, we had offices. I was working for a publishing company in New York and New Jersey, and so I was just doing my routine, driving up. I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts, which is one of my favorites. And if you're from New England, that's your go-to. Yeah. And a guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "Hey, a plane just crashed into the tower." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I really thought it was a small little plane. And so I got back in my car, and I will admit I had Wilson Phillips playing because it was a big band I like, which is embarrassing today. And then my phone started ringing, and then it would go off, and then it would ring and go off, but I couldn't catch it. And then I started seeing on the New Jersey Turnpike cars all pulled off, and I thought, something's going on.
Yeah.
And that's when I got the word. And it was just hard to even imagine. It's still hard to imagine.
Well, there they don't pull over; they just honk at you.
Yeah, normally. And maybe that's why it was so unique. I was like, why is everyone stopping? No one stops in New Jersey, And so, yeah, and it just changed everything for all of us, I think. It just changed and gave us perspective. And, I spent a lot of time talking to my twin daughters last night because they don't have that context. They weren't even thought of at the time.
Right.
And I think just like our parents maybe talk about Pearl Harbor or when Kennedy was assassinated, we need to do that about 9/11. We just can't lose sight of what happened.
I feel old because everything you talked about, I know. I saw.
I feel very old.
I know. I feel very.
It's okay though. We have experience.
I don't act it.
Right. That's right. Right. As long as a lot of energy, you can be as old as you want. Right.
So, where'd you go to college?
So, this is a great story. I was one of those kids. Wasn't a great student. I just wasn't.
I
right.
wasn't either.
I
Terrible.
I wanted to see the world. I was just fascinated by lots of things, and obviously was one of those kids that never got. I think it was my 6th grade year that I got my first S for anything behavior related. It was always U.
What was that, satisfactory back then, right?
Oh yeah, I got S minus maybe.
Yeah.
Finally got an S, and we went and got ice cream because it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I knew in 3rd grade I was going to go into this industry. I remember the show Hotel with Connie Selica.
Right.
That was going to be me. I dreamed of being her because if you're on a military base, everything's the same.
Right.
And I'm like, that looks amazing. So I went on to Newberry. I got to play basketball, and I had a president that just believed in me and gave me a full ride, and it changed my life. Wow. And then I transferred to Boston University, where I got my hotel degree, and then married my husband, who was then a Coast Guard officer. So we went down to Key West, and I cut my teeth at Pizza Hut and Marriott.
Oh, I worked for Pizza Hut too.
Did you really?
I worked for Pizza Hut. Opened up. They hired me to open up Delco, their first Delco units in Southern California.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so the year I was there, and I can tell you because I would just smell like pizza. That was the worst part of the job. We were the most profitable Pizza Hut in America.
That's awesome.
It's Key West, right? It was just people which ate pizza.
Pizza's profitable.
It was so profitable, and you can't believe how much pizza you can make in a day.
My bonuses were huge back in this was in the late 80s. That my bonuses were huge.
I didn't get any bonuses.
Well, these were quarterly bonuses because if you're open up more than one store, then
nice.
Yeah, when you're working for the corporate training people, you got bonuses.
I thought it was a great company, great experience, and the Marriott is really where my values were developed as a leader. Right, those 2 years in the Marriott, it was just extraordinary company.
So
and hard work.
How did you come to hard work and dedication? My granddad used to say.
But I loved it. I would work 100 hours for $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, but you never complained because you had a family at home, family at work. I loved it. I just loved it.
And you liked what you did. Yeah, you loved what you did.
I loved it.
So how'd you come to find the Texas Restaurant Association, TRA?
TRA. Gosh, it's your whole life, right? I mean, I think everything I've done in my life kind of prepared me for this. And I'll admit, when I got a call from the search firm, the gentleman before me, Richie Jackson, had done a great job for decades. And they said, listen, we'd like you to consider this. You've been in education. I worked a lot with lobbying and as a college president. What do you think? And I admit, I was like, oh, absolutely not, right? I mean, that's no. I'm a kind of strong woman. Like, that's probably not going to be a good fit. And then I started meeting with some of the board members, and the incoming board chair and I had dinner with another board member, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. And I knew that Texas, of all we're number 2 in the nation.
Right.
And then there was like these challenges started about like, wait, we could be number 1. We could help bring every chain to Texas, right? And I got more and more excited, and the months went on, and the interviews continued. And then I'll never forget the day Jimmy Haslocker of Jim Restaurants, that was the current board chair, I did my final interview. I actually had flown from London because I was based pretty much doing a lot of European work, landed at 3:30, coached my twins' basketball game at 7 o'clock, to victory, by the way, and then went to bed, took the 5 a.m. to Austin, interviewed, and then my final interview, and I flew, and I was walking through the DFW airport, and he called and said, we would like to offer you the job. And I just stood against the wall going, wow.
How long did it take start to finish?
9 months.
Wow, that's a long time.
9 months. There was a lot of candidates. I mean, it was a big transition. That's
a big vetting process,
important.
huh?
Oh my gosh,
that's got to make you feel good.
It does. It makes me know that my social media is good because they checked everything.
Oh, I bet they did.
Yeah, that's why you have to be so careful.
Oh, people don't understand that now.
I wish I could do a class
even
in
if it says private. Private is not private.
Nothing. And things that you like, and just don't be controversial, right? That's all I think. Like, you want to think it, but don't maybe put it out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was 9 months, and honestly, it's been a year now, and I just feel blessed to be in the role. I really do.
So let's talk about First of all, how many members do you have? TRI have now?
We had 50,000 restaurants when the crisis hit. We represent a big majority of those.
Right.
We've been growing since the crisis hit. But if you think about just from a context perspective, on the first of the year, there were 1.3 million employees,
Right.
second private employer in the state of Texas.
Right.
We'd done $70 billion last year, right? Maybe $7 billion in just tax revenue.
Phenomenal.
And then we had 50,000 eating and drinking, and that doesn't include the bars.
Right.
Right. And we were in the, when I'm talking concepts opening every single day.
Every day. I could not even keep track. I couldn't keep track.
It was insane.
Yeah.
We were living the high life, right? Life was really good. And I think it's hard for us to go back and remember that because it's been 6 months of such pain, right? But we were the place. We'd moved, I think there's 51 of what we would consider the large chains in America. Restaurant chains are in Texas, and 20 plus just in North Texas.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Did you ever think in your life, I would consider trying to stop the restaurant and bar industry like trying to stop a freight train.
Couldn't stop it.
In my lifetime, I have never seen anything stop that quick.
And here's the sequence, right? The 14th, and this is important, Hoboken, New Jersey will always be known as the first city to close dining rooms. It was the night of the 14th at midnight. I was actually, remember it was spring break here in North Texas.
Right. So is that where all the deaths were from the nursing homes and stuff, or what was Hoboken?
No, Hoboken was, I don't even know if it was where the most deaths were. It was just happened to be New Jersey, New York were getting hit the hardest.
Okay.
New York really started to see that acceleration, that terrible acceleration. And they said, okay, dining rooms closed. And it was a hint of like, well, that won't happen here. Remember, it felt so far
that's
away,
what I thought.
right?
Yeah.
Then the 17th of March, President Trump called a bunch of restaurant owners to the White House. We got word of that, and it was like, ooh, okay, but we're in Texas, right? We're in Texas, we're good. And then the 19th, it was just that morning, I got the call from the governor's office saying we're going to close dining rooms across Texas.
Now, hang on, there's a story behind that. You were on vacation, right?
I was in Cabo.
So let's get the backstory real quick.
I had been, you take over a new role.
Right.
I've been running hard. I've been all over the state trying to meet restaurant owners.
And you thought you deserved a vacation? How dare you?
That was the funny part. Everyone's like, take a vacation. My assistant, take a vacation. And I'm like, okay. So I'm on the beach. It's a little hard for me. I'm not a good relaxer.
Right.
And then the world blows up. And so I can remember sitting in my room literally 20 hours a day. And I put the chair out where I could see the beach, where I could see my husband and my daughters. Right. They're having a great old time, right? And I just worked and worked and worked and worked and tried to it was chaos. It's hard to remember. Cities were closing, counties were closing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like this light switch.
Yeah.
And everything changed forever.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And then I had to get home, obviously, out of Mexico.
Did you take a call from Governor Abbott at that time?
From his team. I didn't speak to Governor Abbott directly, but his team was gracious enough.
And what did his team tell you they were going to? Was this before they shut him?
No, it was right before they shut him. The announcement was coming, and it was, we're going to give you a heads up, which is just, whenever you work with associations, it's great because it gives us the opportunity to manage the message.
Sure.
Right? I don't want a restaurateur. In the proper way, and to give them context, right? Because when the governor makes an announcement, there's so much more behind that.
Because if the media was to make, which they did make that announcement, it's all, and I'm in media now. If what I do is media, obviously, but I'm a positive media person. They take it and they spin it because they want to get clicks, they want to get views, and they spin it the way they want. They spin it the way they want people to read it to help their business, to help their views
and at the time, it was nothing to make. You told restaurants overnight, you can no longer, let's say most restaurants were 80%, maybe 90% dining room. Yeah. You can no longer do that. Welcome to the next day.
What was your initial thought? Okay, when you first found this out, to you in your mind, what was your initial thought? What was your initial thought about it?
About 72 hours before his announcement, it was pandemonium. Yeah. And we have 254 counties. So individual counties were making decisions, right? We're going to close at midnight. We're going to have a curfie. We're closing dining rooms.
That was a wreck. I remember,
imagine trying to be a Brinker, a Darden, a Chick-fil-A, even independent, right? That has multiple counties. We had a spreadsheet that was like, it was just like a war room almost.
How could you even change that?
Every minute we'd update it. And we have 23 chapters, right? That makes a huge difference. So those chapters were totally engaged. Honestly, when Governor Abbott just made the decision to make it one set of rules, I just have to admit, it was a blessing, right? Because everybody was operating the same. We could put all our energy behind one thing. And it was like almost a pause for 24 hours to be able to say, now what's next? And that's when alcohol was the first thing we thought of. Yeah,
and then when you and I were talking about when the chart came out about, and I want to clear this up because I told everybody from the start, Restaurants were not the problem. Restaurants are the cleanest place restaurants and bars are the cleanest place you can go into because of the strict health codes they have already.
How about now? They're like you could go to a table today and you think you're getting your spleen out.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we have to be careful. It's so sanitized.
Yeah.
It's so sterile. Yeah. Here's the thing. When this all happened, and I'll tell you where I think we made a mistake, because, you have to always look back.
Right.
When dining rooms closed, about after the 17th, by the 19th, about half of America's dining rooms were closed.
Right.
I think we were too easy. Like if I give myself a look back, right? Now, it wouldn't have changed anything. Being difficult and causing it wouldn't have changed anything, right? We needed to do our part.
Right.
But I think it connected the fact that maybe the big announcement of dining rooms closed meant they're unsafe.
Right.
Right? Not, hey, let's get people at home so we can build our supply chain. That was never part of the discussion. Now, fast forward, we're ubiquitous. We're everywhere. We are a very easy target for the media. So we have had to put a ton of work into clarifying that causation, right, is very different than correlation.
Right.
And we have no evidence in the U.S. that COVID is being spread in restaurants.
No,
none.
But the media keeps spreading that, and that's why people don't.
So we have to hold them to account.
And it breaks my heart because most people have their life savings, and in most cases, if it's a one-type restaurant, they have their whole family. I went to one restaurant; he had his wife, his two daughters, and himself working in there.
And here it's reckless, right?
Yeah.
That's the word for it. It's reckless journalism. But we have elected officials who've chosen in some cases to do the same thing. So back when remember things were good, we opened May 1st.
Right.
And then all of a sudden towards the end of June, things got a little bit dicey.
Right.
Right. It was really middle of June. What's really interesting to me was we had elected officials tweet out, from their cities. And one essentially said, and I'm not going to quote it because I'll get it wrong, but the tenor was, COVID's coming, get indoors now. I was just at the Riverwalk where they talk about everyone sitting, eating.
Get indoors now.
Boop, 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 all the phones going off and people going, check, please, check, please, check, please. And the entire weekend was gone.
Yeah.
That's reckless. That's
Very.
reckless.
Right.
And so that's, I think, where the restaurants are so frustrated because they've done everything beyond what's been required.
Right.
And then they get targeted because it's easy.
Right.
It's easy to go after a restaurant.
It's easy, it's easy, but it generates stuff. It's clicks for them.
So if,
our views, our business, or whatever.
And think about the worst part of this for me was there were no rules. Remember, there's no rules if you have a COVID positive case.
Right.
Right? There's no CDC guidelines, really. There was no state, no Health and Human Services. So we took all the information we could and put it in a document. And we thought at the time, all of us, right? If you have a COVID positive employee, do you hide that? Do you tell the public? Do you do the right thing? We had restaurants that would close for a week. There is no requirement to close.
Right.
None.
Right. They were doing it out of fear, I'm sure.
They were trying to do everything to help.
Right.
And then they'd end up on the front page of a website saying, click here for the 5 restaurants that have COVID positive employees.
Yeah.
Do you think a consumer at that time was going to walk back in that restaurant?
No. They probably not. They may not go now.
It was devastating.
Because people have this rendition in their mind that COVID's like this I don't know, like dust, and it just sits around. Everything you touch, or you look at, or you go by, and you suck it up, and you breathe.
Let me ask you this: when you go to your grocery store and you pick up a box of cereal and you look at it and you put it back down, is there someone sanitizing that when you walk away?
No.
No.
And people don't know what sits on top of that either.
But yet at a restaurant,
rat dust and everything else that
there
hurt
could be
you.
anything. But yet that's safe. But if I touch a menu, it's unsafe, right? I mean, and I think that's the part where I've had to help our members say this is not logical. Everyone's doing the best they can. We're going to get through it, right? Just causing a fuss isn't going to help us. But God, sometimes it's hard to explain the logic because I can't find it.
What has been your number one complaint from? I know you have tons of them, and I'm not trying to trying to downplay or make any comment insignificant or any problem. But what has been your number one most challenging fact for restaurant owners and restaurant managers and partners through the whole ordeal?
It comes in phases, right?
Yeah.
I think the first was helping them transition their businesses. It was so hard because you're trying to, we would do a delivery webinar and get 1,000 people, which is kind of unheard of. And they would be on these webinars just taking notes about how do I do delivery, right? How do I do curbside? How do I do packaging? Right? And so it was, you're dragging restaurants along that have never had to think about those things, right? I think second right now is keeping them focused that we're going to get through it, right? So we're waiting for the next round of concessions. People are frustrated. It's sort of making sure they understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even though I can't tell them where it is yet. I know where it is. And then I think last is getting them to understand that March 13th, 14th, 15th is never coming back.
Right.
That's
Right.
been the hardest thing. Is I've got people that call me. I had a text this morning saying, "Hey, Emily, our buffet is going to be open soon, and can we just get back to normal?" And it's like there is no normal anymore. It's gone.
Yeah.
Curbside's here, deliveries here.
Right.
All those pieces have to be part of your business.
Yep. When I told people just when this very first happened, because in restaurant business all my life.
Right.
I told people the very first when I told Jana, my girlfriend, when this shut down, I said, you know what? The only people that are going to survive in this business are people that can adapt
Absolutely.
and overcome quick. 360.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about sitting about whining. What can I do?
No.
I'm talking about just gambling.
Wasted
Go
energy.
out, make it
Take
happen.
a risk.
Take a risk. Make delivery. Whatever you got to do,
Sell
do it.
groceries.
So do anything.
I mean, people were literally, we
Yeah.
had restaurants that made money just selling raw steak
right.
and boxes of food.
Right.
Which we got a waiver for them to do that because we're
Yeah.
like, hey, listen, we're 51% of the food dollar in the state. So every dollar in your pocket that goes towards food, 51% before this hit went to restaurants. You just shut us down. How long do you think it's going to take before there was no way to get food in some parts of Texas? So we're like, we're going to become grocery stores.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of the restaurants were doing they were doing big boxes of to-go vegetables and meat and everything.
Oh my God. And don't forget the most sought after item,
And
toilet paper.
Yeah, and you know what? They were actually selling out every day.
We
All of
had
them.
restaurants in parts of Austin. I'll never forget. They literally were doing 80% of what they were doing pre-COVID selling these giant boxes because you could roll up, order it, or call online. The person would come out, drop it in your trunk. It was your eggs, your milk. It was a prepared meal from that restaurant. Couple things of toilet paper. You went home, no contact. I think that's going to be here forever.
Yeah.
That really is.
And I think that what also on the positive side, and what I tell everybody every time I talk to my restaurant owner or chef or whatever, what's come out of this is you found new avenues of streams of income.
Oh,
so you can, once you're back to somewhat normal, you have your regular business, but you're also going to have to go delivery.
Yeah, diversify. You're diversified. You're more protected.
Very much so. Yeah, very well protected.
Yep.
And once you get your restaurants back up to sale, but you peak sales.
That's right.
And you might have more delivery, and then you might have some package deals. Keep doing package deals. People have taken a big liking to that family meal stuff.
Huge. And I think what you saw, and HEB I have to give a lot of credit to because they were exceptional partners in the
Like
crisis.
HEB.
HEB stepped up and said, you know what, restaurants, they let restaurants, a number of them, put their prepared meals inside HEB with 100% pass-through. So if I can't, down in the valley, we have a restaurant group, amazing restaurant group. They were high-end.
Right.
They just got gut punched, right? I mean, and they're a beautiful family. They partner with HEB. You can get all the meals you loved already prepared in HEB, 100% right back to the restaurant. It was brilliant. And those are the kind of things that you go, we should keep doing that. The lines between grocery and restaurants, maybe they're coming more together. And this crisis, I will tell you, has made people work together that never worked together before.
They have made them work together. I have seen that.
Yep.
What do you think, to me, traveling around, because we've been in Austin, we've been in Deep Ellum, what do you think has been, I thought for a minute maybe the hardest hit areas were the small communities like Austin or Deep Ellum or West End of Fort Worth where people walked a lot because they would give out. It was a destination. They'd walk, they'd eat, they'd drink, they'd walk, they'd eat. Is there other areas that have been hit harder than even though they've all been shut down?
I think your city centers.
Okay,
I am very deeply concerned about a couple places. One, the Riverwalk. I'm not from San Antonio, but I just have a love
and that's
of that
all
Riverwalk.
outside. That should be the number one thing.
But you know what? They're locked in, so they can't do delivery. They can't do curbside. It's very difficult. Loading zone issues. No one's down there, right? If you think about where the Riverwalk is, you either have government
and travel
is next to none. So you take an icon like that, it's one or two in the entire country to bring people to Texas, right? That's number 1 and 2 in Texas. And so your downtown areas are a huge concern. So if you think about downtown Dallas, right? You've got restaurants that service the office buildings that are still empty. You have no convention business coming in. Sports business is not there. And so you're sitting there, your lunch crowd has disappeared. Your evening crowd of conventions has disappeared. What do you do?
All thing you can do is
you got to try to innovate,
right?
But
Diversify. But I was to your point. We stayed in Los Colinas, stayed in Dallas, also, and I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I talked to guys in the real estate business in Dallas, and he said that, and he does real estate all over Metroplex, but he said the office buildings are just going away. Leases are going up. People aren't going back. So your
Scary.
lunch business, like we were at Toyota Music Factory.
Oh, sure.
Oh my God,
There's
we
an
were
area
there. We were there at 12 noon last week. Empty. These big, it just breaks my heart. These big, huge restaurants.
They'd be
5
bustling.
people, 6 people, 12 people.
And then forget your happy hour, right? Your after business crowd that would pile in there, have a drink before they went home. All of that is gone. But here's the thing you have to remember. Those people still have to eat.
Right.
So I think that's that whole role of ghost kitchen, virtual kitchen. Do you turn your current infrastructure, if you're stuck there, into a way to still get food to those people.
Right.
You know, something we're talking a lot about now is what's going to happen from the health standpoint with these companies, right? They all have these on-site cafeterias or restaurants.
Right.
You control the food that went in there, right? You want healthy employees. So is there a chance for companies to do deals with restaurants to deliver meals to their employees' homes, right? That's some of the creativity that you're going to see come out of this, because I always tell that office worker may not be downtown Dallas, but they're still somewhere where they have to eat.
Right.
So how do we reimagine how to get to that person?
I have seen a ton of takeout. We have, like I told you, we visit a lot of restaurants to keep up. And I have seen the amount of takeout I have seen has been phenomenal. I mean,
incredible.
I've gone to some and seen 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 just sitting up there. And again, I think people are scared to death
to go
inside. And I think it's unfair. I think,
it's a perception, and we have to keep building trust. And I'll tell you, it's one of the reasons we built the restaurant promise, is we said we're going to give the consumer a way to know that restaurant has achieved a level of certification, and even took it a step further. We have a third party that comes in 4 times in the first month to make sure they're meeting the criteria, and then they get that seal. And the Workforce Commission of the state of Texas partnered with us and Dallas College to build all of this in the last couple of months, because we know we might get 100% in the next 2 weeks. Who knows, right? We can all be hopeful. Until the consumer feels safe going out, that's the work we have to do right now. And it's you're going up against the media in some cases. And I want to be fair. I mean, we had some great media coverage.
Right.
I would argue
we have. We've also had a lot of negative.
And there's parts we've had negative. And so getting them to partner to understand that when these restaurants close for good, you can hope someone else comes in.
Right.
But it's a life, it's a job, it's a community, it's a memory that's gone forever.
Yeah.
You just can't discount it like, well, it's a business cycle, we'll just move on. We can't do that.
Yeah, and I'm not downplaying. I love me. I mean, that's how I get my message out. I love that. I just wish there had been some more positive coverage instead of less negative. And
maybe rally around the restaurants. I mean, and you know what's painful for me is think about restaurants. Who's the first person that shows up in a disaster?
Yeah.
Who's the first person you call when your son needs to have a baseball sponsorship or a fundraiser?
Right.
The restaurants have always come first. Even in this crisis, we had restaurants are the number one folks that stepped up to help first responders and healthcare workers when they weren't making a dime.
Right.
They turned, remember too, business interruption insurance, Trey, doesn't exist here.
Right.
So they lost all their inventory. You know what they did? They gave it out to their employees.
Right. Yeah.
They gave it out to people in need, right?
Food banks to give food away.
Pummeling them on the media. And it's like, you know what's going to change is the consumers have got to get out and support these restaurants.
Right.
It's on them to take care of their local restaurants.
They have to. Y'all have a new video that we want to show right now. Can we show that video, please? This is a fantastic video, and I want everybody to watch it. For people that are listening on a podcast, if you go to
txrestaurant.org.
txrestaurant.org, it'll be on there.
It still makes me emotional. It's amazing.
It's a fantastic video. gracious. All right, boy, that video was fantastic. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate that. I always want to thank Ron and Chris and Don when he's out probably downstairs doing something. But I always want to thank the production crews for doing what they do here so I can do what I do. That was a fantastic video.
It's powerful.
Let's talk about the numbers real quick.
Yeah.
So have y'all figured out yet how many restaurants we're going to lose? Have they figured out a good number?
And it's a great week to have this conversation. So we projected, we've got about 15% that have closed, right? Turn the keys and done.
Forever gone.
Forever gone. They're out, right? And it was about 10% within the first 2 months. We've seen another 5%. We project it's 30%, but I will tell you the deciding factor. This
overall,
week,
30%.
Overall.
Everything, okay.
And it tracks to the national average. Your independents, though, are going to be independent, meaning Thai shop, little noodle shop, small, not a lot of capital.
They're a bigger percentage.
They're going to be much higher.
Yeah.
That could cross 50%, honestly, if this continues. You know, the hard part is we really thought we were going to get additional relief from Congress. And we found out yesterday, of course, the GOP passed a thin bill. We had a Paycheck Protection Program sequel in it. It was procedural. We knew it wouldn't pass, and it's dead in the water. And we could literally be looking at, through the end of the year, no additional help. And I think that will drive more restaurants off the edge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and there's no, if you're trying to make your business survive, you can't go out and get a job. So it's a catch-22.
You have no way to generate revenue.
You've got to ride it till you got to ride that horse till it dies on you. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
And now a lot of them are dipping into personal funds.
Yeah,
they're dipping it and there's always this. I mean, we get into this business right because we love it and we're entrepreneurs and we're risk takers, right? So that sometimes works at a disadvantage, right? So you just keep putting money in, and remember, costs have also accelerated. All the PPE, the sanitation. Putting curbside together, delivery takes a percentage, right? So your margins are even thinner than maybe the 8 to 9% you were lucky to have. And now Congress has pretty much said, we're going to ignore small business and go back home and run for our elections. It is, if any of our elected officials, and we're lucky we've got a lot of support here in Texas, but the fact that they could not come to closure in the name of partisan politics, that these restaurants, I mean, it's been devastating this week, devastating. I can tell you, small businesses also lag behind the numbers on closures, right? So they'll just drop the keys and walk away.
Right. You won't know.
It may take a month or two. So I think you're going to see a very big. And remember, this is Texas, where we've been open since May 1.
Right.
Think about other parts of the country.
Right.
I mean, in New Jersey and New York, you're still not even indoors.
They open up. They are going to open up the 25th or something, right?
Yeah, I think the end of the month at 25%.
Yeah.
Well, but
and you know how big the restaurants are? What's that going to do?
Nothing.
What in the hell is that going to do?
It's going to cost you more
to open
than it would be to stay closed.
Right.
I mean, it's so, I get it, and I want to be clear. The TRA is all about balancing health and the economy, but at some point we've got to reference the data and look at to see that this is not coming from restaurants. We are a massive economic contributor to this economy, and we provide a crap load of tax dollars.
Right. See, that's another thing. People do not people and no fault of their own.
Right.
But if you're not in the industry and all you do is go out and eat and drink and go home and you have to raise your family, you got to get your job, you got to pay your bills. You don't understand what a restaurant or a restaurant bar or a bar puts into the local economy for tax dollars
and the jobs.
I
mean, we were at the peak of the crisis. We had just said 700,000 people out of 1.3 million on the sidelines. Well, and this week is a very important. You know, I think it was FEMA, the feds, the extra 300 per week. Well, that's gone as of the 5th of September.
Right.
So now we have all these workers that are not working.
Right.
Their benefit of an extra 1,200 has now gone away, but yet we want to bring them back, but we can't bring them back if we're not operating at full capacity.
Right.
There's no work for them.
Right.
So it's just this really bad cycle we're in right now.
And so, and speaking of that, the restaurants, bars, they're open. They opened up this weekend, correct? Bars?
No. So bars are not open yet.
But bar restaurants are.
Yeah, so here, this whole bar restaurant thing, right? And
which I'm glad they did that because these guys are dying on the vine. So I'm glad they did that.
You know, we opened first. Bars weren't open.
Right.
We got asked to step in and kind of help them,
Right.
and we love our bar community, right? Anything food and drinking, we're all about. But they have a different association, right?
Sure.
But our restaurant sort of recovery plan, our restaurant promise that got restaurants open.
Right.
Can you leverage that for bars? And so we pulled about 15 bar owners together and we did a working group and we thought about how do you make a bar feel like a restaurant, right? Because it's all about making sure the people checking and inspecting and our public health officials can feel good about it.
Right.
So we got them open. I think it was 10 days, 2 weeks later. They get shut down that Friday, right? And so they were shut down for quite a while.
I just threw my hands up.
That was a tough day because we went down to 50 that day,
oh,
right?
Man.
I got that call.
I was about. I just threw my hands up there and went, what?
You know what? And you know, I always think about. I'm lucky that I can see the whole U.S. So we have a group of CEOs of all the states, and we compare notes. And I would tell you that 90% of them say, "Thank God, Emily, you get to be in Texas." Right. So I always try to give people a perspective. There are states that are opening county by county. no alcohol to go. I mean, just lots of limitations. We have been very well cared for in comparison to the whole, right? And it's important. But honestly, for the bars, we just work with TABC, who I know people have gone after TABC, but they've been a great partner, right? We have a 3% violation rate in the entire state for restaurants.
Wow.
That's unbelievable, right? Well, we went back and said, is there anything we can do? And so what you saw was TABC come out. They had a special commission meeting. You can bring a food truck up now and pair it with your bar. Right. You can bring packaged food in. So we've seen and we've helped get a food and beverage license. We've helped so many of those bars that really are restaurants get reopened.
You have a bunch of new members out of it, don't you?
A ton of new members of people who just need a voice that kind of gets them through. And listen, we want to help them. I've actually worked on affidavits with bar owners because they don't know how to get them filled out. I mean, we just get in the weeds to help. They're these are great people.
Do you think people understand as a whole what y'all do as an organization? How long been around and what you do for them?
I'm not sure they knew before. I'm not sure they knew before. They know now? And I think now what you've learned is you have to be part of the group. Right. It's not okay to say, well, I'm not going to join because he will and that'll carry the water. Because what the elected officials will tell you is that when we mobilize this group in Texas, and I'll tell the story.
The bigger the better.
Well, and the impact. But here's a lesson learned.
Okay.
Taxes.
Right.
Okay. We owe taxes.
Right.
We collect taxes. It's a sales tax. We have to remit it back to the state. Well, no one had any money by April. Right. And so we have
literally no money.
No money. And now their taxes are due. And I get they had the money, but it's about cash flow. So we have an idea. We have this platform called Phone to Action, where essentially we push out an email and all you do is put your zip code in and sign it. And it goes to every elected official tied to where you live. Okay. We dropped about 70,000 emails on the comptroller in about a 24-hour period. You can only imagine. He simply responded, and he's Comptroller Hager's done a great job with us. He essentially said, pretty much, who the heck thought to do this? And I was like, well, me, I'm just trying to, he goes, you closed down all the email for my entire team. So there was part of me who said, well, when you run for re-election, maybe you want to hire us, right? I didn't know what to say, but it taught me early that
the power of many.
You know what? You have to be in a group. If you're in a group, you tell your story. If you're one guy in a corner screaming, get me open, you can't be heard today.
Right.
So I think what they found is, wow, if we join this group, they're going to do all that hard work for us. And it's really been incredible to see people come and join together. Incredible.
What are some of the positive stories you've heard out of all this? I know you have, what are some of the positive stories that have stuck in your mind? Because I know you have to have some.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it is? It's the grit of the industry.
Yeah.
I mean,
the resilience, I guess, of everybody.
Oh, and just the way they care, the way they still pull out to the community. I mean, we still have people that are doing meals for hospitals at no cost, right?
Yeah.
We have people,
I see that on social media a lot. Yeah.
It's, I mean, think about that. You're in the hole yourself and you're stepping up. And I think what, people say, God, Emily, why are you still working so hard? Why? In my team, I have to just be clear, the TRA team is extraordinary. Trey, in the middle of this crisis, we were literally 18 hours a day. I mean, it was 18 hours. And I woke up one day saying,
I'm surprised you weren't 24.
It could have been. And maybe it felt like it, right? Because you're sleeping, you're thinking about what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And I think what you realize is if you love the people, and you know this, you've been in this. Yeah. I love restaurant people. They're a special group of people. And so you don't give up because every day you go, I got to help them. I can't. And that's my point now. It's like, well, they'll close, new people open. You kind of hear this little bit narrative, right? In the higher ranks. Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's not, we're not going to do that. Yeah. We're going to give these people a chance because they didn't do anything wrong. Think about it. We didn't do anything wrong. Someone just wrote a media piece saying, help the restaurant and get a bailout. We don't need a bailout. A bailout's when you have to come in because something bad that we did.
Right.
We didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything.
We actually stayed open to feed Texans unprofitably during a crisis. We did our part, right? And so I think that's the part that fuels us is we got to help these people. These are good people.
What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for people to get over once everything is 100%, not 100% business, but open to 100%? I guess the biggest challenge is people trying to get their debts paid or get that's going to be the biggest challenge, maybe?
I think debt's going to be a big thing. I think technology. I think that we have seen the kind of culmination of the patchwork system, right? So your POS system, your ordering system, your marketing, nothing's integrated. And I think, and I think the lack of technology hit restaurants hard. You know what though? What I have seen during this, and I guess this is people, because everybody's financial position is different when they own a restaurant, depending on what you've done, where you come from, your business model.
But I saw some of them actually during the pandemic got those new systems where you could do everything from the table, the credit card,
contactless, everything.
I'm going to tell you something. That was phenomenal. That's right. That's
and that's what the
right
guest
there.
wants, right? And
Yeah.
so, but again, it takes investment.
Right.
Right. It takes dollars to do that. And so, like you said, but I think, I can imagine a world, this is going to probably sound crazy, but when I did so much work in China, I remember going down the street once to a meeting just about a year and a half ago, and there was a large cart in they have a third lane there in Beijing.
Right.
And you would walk out of the office building when you got a ping on your phone, scan it, and the door would open, and it all paid everything, and you pull out your food and go back to your office, right? I can imagine the role of delivery and the consumer relationship to that restaurant. Imagine walking in to pick up your curbside, and facial recognition already tells them, and they know it's your birthday. They put a special something in that experience.
Sure.
It's not just going to be food in a bag out the door.
Right.
I think you're going to see restaurants be creative, but they're going to have to be willing to go there.
Do you have any figures that what? And I've been trying to just put in my mind. I can't. Do you have any kind of figures in your mind, or as TRA does, of what they think delivery percentage will be from here on out, percentage wise of a restaurant's business? And I'm not talking about each specific restaurant. I'm talking about just as a whole.
It's
of
general. Yeah.
General.
You saw restaurants that went from 10% delivery to 90%.
Right.
I mean, it flipped.
Right.
We've seen a couple things early here in Texas. We've seen that the curbside number has stayed pretty consistent.
Right.
Right. It's fallen off some, but
Right.
the curbside stayed pretty consistent. Delivery has fallen off slightly.
Right.
And I think that's where we're now working with our delivery companies, right? Because we're going to need delivery. The consumer has said we like delivery. We don't know how long and how much of their weekly food consumption they will want brought
Right.
to their home, but we know it's going to be much more significant than it was in the
Sure.
past. So I think you could get, depending on the restaurant, up to even 25, 30% or more. And you're also going to have things like fajita Pete's and others that are just delivery.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah. And I do think over time, like in a restaurant, you have parts and stuff, you can do your business. I do think over time it will settle, and you will see an average of maybe 2 nights a week delivery, 2 nights a week going out.
Yep.
I think you will see that.
I agree with that.
But I think it's going to take a while.
I think it's going to take a while, and I think that we're not back to life yet. We're not back to,
Oh,
and
no.
I know my kids have been back a couple weeks now. Guess what? I don't have the time to be home and prepare. I mean, my life is busy again. It's very busy again. So guess what? I'm relying on restaurants more.
Right.
And what do I want? I want to be able to just stop in with my kids and sit down, have a quick meal, watch the game on the thing, right? I think people miss that. They miss the community. They miss being together. And I really think that psychological piece is going to drive people back to dining rooms.
You know what this has made me understood is why I love this business so much, because before this, and I think the consumer being anybody goes in a restaurant, bar, nightclub, whatever,
Right.
you did not realize how much you needed the other people to be in there when you go in there
Totally.
to make yourself feel good. You needed that ambiance, that the vibrant,
Hearing
all
other
the noise, the other
voices.
voices. That's why restaurants in Italy and New York and Chicago, the small places, and there's people and there's packed, you can hardly hear.
Feels great.
It feels great. It's you're getting the energy.
But as a human, we were
right.
designed for that
Interaction.
connection.
Yeah.
I can remember the first meal I had was at Bugatti's.
Yeah.
I just love them, right?
Yeah.
They are just the kind of people that send you that note going, I know today was really hard, Emily, hang in there. Just
Right.
good people. So they invited me to come. I took my daughter. I literally sat there, tables were really far apart, and they had, maybe 10 or 12 tables full.
Right.
I could hear there's a lady over here arguing with someone about President Trump. There was some lady over here talking about something her husband didn't do, she didn't like, whatever. And I found myself sitting there going, I love this.
Yeah.
I don't know them, but I feel connected to them.
Right.
And I went home and I wrote about it, and I said, this is what we can't lose. I appreciate efficiency. I appreciate food coming to my home. I think that's going to change. I think the way it comes is going to be different. I think it's going to be when you unfold whatever that is, it's not just going to be packaging, right? It's going to be an experience.
That's another thing. Packaging's already changed. That's another thing. I've been watching that. Packaging has already just come. I'm talking about 360. Since
It's
6 months.
unbelievable.
6 months, 360.
That's the business to be in.
I'm telling you. And if we're huge on LinkedIn now. If you watch LinkedIn, you see all the new packaging.
Incredible.
Before it hits the retail deal,
Yep.
when people are showing it to all the different business, it's fantastic.
Even just drinks now. I mean, putting alcohol drinks out the door. All that packaging.
Oh, the alcohol packaging. That's too. I saw one on LinkedIn, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
You get a lunch and your drink, and I don't know if you see the package together,
No.
so they give you your drink and your lunch, but it's one.
Love it.
And your lunch is up here. You open it up, you can eat it and put it back, and then the drink is right here and you drink it, but you carry it in one hand.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's just.
It's just the innovation that's going to come from
Right.
this, and I think we're going to want as consumers not just food in a bag through our window. There's times for that, and it's great, and we love our quick service family. But we, the experience. I really believe that we are going to miss that more than we do today, and that's going to drive people back in.
Have you noticed, this is a question I was asking myself, have you noticed if small farmers, the people who deliver produce stuff, has their business gotten a lot better during this because they could concentrate on getting fresh produce to the people in need?
Gosh, so we had a huge problem once we closed, right? So everything starts backing up.
Right.
All the way back to the farm. And people don't realize the grocery supply chain and the restaurant supply chain are different.
Different.
You just don't move. I mean, even the packaging. So right now we're part of a task force with the USDA to think about the commercial packaging. How do you make it similar? So if this ever happens again, you can easily swap or even become one. I mean, there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes now. The Texas Farm Bureau, the Texas Beef Council, great partners of ours.
Beef Council.
I love the Texas Beef Council. Those guys are fantastic.
Beef is what's for dinner.
Oh man, and they're just such great people, right? And they do a lot of work educating our students in high school, right? Our culinary students about beef. And I remember calling and saying, "Hey, are we short of cows?" I'll never forget. Russell Woodward's like, "What?" And I said, "Are there enough cows?" And he kind of laughed.
Yeah.
That wasn't the problem.
No.
It was the packaging, and it was coming through the system. So I just think all of that is going to start to drive a lot of change, because that supply chain think about it. When we moved, those packing plants went down. Do you remember when we opened?
Right. Oh, yeah.
What happened to protein prices?
Yeah.
Tripled. So now your ribs, you're paying 4 times more.
But they had everybody thinking they were killing hogs, and there wasn't enough. There was plenty.
True.
I was looking around my ranch going, I can tell you right now, I can see plenty right here. You need some? Come get them.
But see, I was that person who was like, do we have enough cows? Right? I mean, because I'm, and of course he's like, we have plenty of cows.
If you don't know, if you're not in the business, you want to believe what you hear as an American. You want to believe what you hear.
But that's why you have to ask
the
source,
right? You got to ask the right question. You can't just ask. You got to ask the right question.
And mine was a simple one. And he's like, we're good on the number of cows. And I'd been up to Amarillo to my first feedlot, right? And I thought to myself, there are a lot of them up there, right? Yeah. So I think that you're going to, all of this is going to be good for our sector, right? It is.
The one positive thing I think this has done for the whole industry is it made them look at everybody, whether your business model was big or small or intermediate, it made you look at your business model. And I'm talking about how you order your food, how you keep your food, how you deliver your food, how you
everything
approach it, how you advertise your business, because a lot of people survive by advertising on social media when before they didn't believe it or didn't want to mess with it.
And actually one of the things we did was people didn't realize that when they went dark, so let's say they did close for 6 weeks because they didn't have delivery, they didn't have a window. Guess what happens in Google? You go to the bottom. Yeah. Right? Everything goes dark. Right. And so we had to teach restaurants, and Google's a partner of ours, Google Restaurant Group, hey, you got to get in there. You got to keep all this up to date, because if you don't, guess what's going to happen? You're never going to be in the search engine page 1 or 2 again. All those things we didn't think about before the crisis hit. It all became, I mean, the amount of education we're doing as an association right now is extraordinary.
So if people want to, before we're not out of time, before I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but before if people want to get a hold of TRA and see what you're about, give us the.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to txrestaurant.org. Okay. I always say this. I know this will surprise you, but I'm eknight@txrestaurant.org. You're welcome to email me directly, but we just want to help. I mean, I think one of the things we did, Trey, when the crisis hit, is we opened up everything to everyone, not just members. Right. And it was a risk, right? Because we're an association, we're a nonprofit, but we said this is not a time to make people pay for things, right? We're going to open it to the world, and I think it's the best thing we ever did. So if people out there need help or they need more information, they can come to the website or they can come to me directly, and I can get them to the right place. And I want to say, not because you're on my show, my family was in the restaurant business for 100 years in Texas. We were always a part of the organization, and it's a great organization. Even back then, it was smaller. It was a great organization. And if I owned a restaurant today, or a restaurant bar, I would want to be part of that organization. I think it's a fantastic organization. And let me, and for everyone listening, right, this next legislative session is critical. We have alcohol to go, we have retail, we're doing some work with mixed beverage. If we don't solidify that, the minute these executive orders end, all that goes away. So, and remember, all you people who like alcohol to go. Oh, come on, let me tell you something. To go. And listen, if you own a Mexican restaurant, you're killing it right now. You are. Yeah, you are. And we need to keep it. And so we're going to need everyone's help in that legislative session, which starts in about 4 months. It's going to be big, isn't it? Big. All right, everybody. I'm going to give you all my handles, and I say handles, That's the old CB, CB terminology back in the day. Just use the word merch. When you use the word merch, I'm like, he's pretty cool. So TreysChowdown.com. We have all of our stuff. We have a restaurant guide there. We've got a barbecue guide. We've got our best barbecue list coming out at the end of the year. We're going to have our best burger list again. I am waiting intentionally until next year, early next year, to release it. I'm not going to release it this year because I want restaurants and barbecue everybody back up to speed. So I've
just shut it all off. We are still going out and eating. We're still testing the market. We're still visiting with chefs. We do, we go to between 18 and 30 places a week.
That's awesome.
And we're eating hamburgers, lots of barbecue, lots of steaks. You can catch us up on our social media, all our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. If you go to treyschowdown.com, hook us up. Want to be friends. If all else fails, you can just Google us. That's what I say. Just Google me.
Just Google.
One more time, your website.
Yeah, txrestaurant.org.
txrestaurant.org. And if they want to become a member, that's all on the website?
Yes, or they can email me directly, txrestaurant.org.
Do you have somebody that can actually talk to somebody? I mean, obviously you do. That's a
Sure.
dumb question. But if they want to call and talk to somebody, can they call and talk to somebody on the phone?
Absolutely. We have. It depends on where they are in Texas. We have chapters all over. We have 4 offices across the state, and we will have someone lean in. Or if they just have a question, right? A lot of times it's regulatory, it's federal, give us a call, we'll walk you through it. We also have a law center, which has been hugely helpful that members get access to.
Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It's been great.
See y'all next week. Same time, same bad channel. Peace. Hi, I'm Trey Chapman, publisher of Trey'sChowdown.com. I'm passionate about finding the best food, drinks, and chefs and sharing it all with you. I should know I have over 5 decades of food experience. Find me on any podcast platform, Facebook Live, or just Google me. Now you can watch and listen to all my great finds every week on my live TV and radio podcast at Trey's Chowdown Live.